Aloha and welcome to Author Talk. I'm Lori coming at you from the big island of Hawaii, and I'm really excited about my guest today, Glenna Gill. She has written just an amazing book about her life story. See if you can see it. I have it on my Kindle. Here it is. When I Was Lost, a mother's struggle with bipolar disorder. So that kind of says says a lot about it right there. But I want to welcome you, Glenna. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So the title itself sounds pretty dramatic.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it felt like, as far as just the feeling of being lost for 10 or so years.
Yes. So it was a kind of a 10-year season of.
Yeah, it was about a decade and um, of where the worst of it happened, and the more ill I was myself lasted about that time. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So you do write your book in kind of a chronological order and tell us that you kind of moved in with your boyfriend as a teenager, then it became your husband and was
Hmm.
married for a long time, and that was all great. And then the divorce happened. So we'll start right there. And it was almost kind of like maybe a switch flipped, or I don't know what happened, but you go ahead and you can kind of tell us, what is your book about?
Well, I mean, the night that my first husband told me that he had met someone else and he wanted to be with her and all that, probably was the most traumatic night of my life, as far as not kind of having tiny suspicions, but not really seeing it come in full force.
Mm-hmm.
And not knowing any other life but the life that I had with him. And by that time I'd started to have some problems with my bipolar, and I'd had episodes and things like that. And I was like, how, if my husband isn't here, how am I going to even function? And it just threw me for a complete loop.
Okay, so you had already, I guess, been diagnosed with bipolar during your first marriage.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was towards the end of it, after,
Mm-hmm.
right, probably 6 months after I had my middle son.
Oh, okay. So, is pregnancy kind of something that can bring that on?
Well, it's funny because I didn't have problems at all until right after I had my first son, which I had some type of like a manic phase right after, but then just totally crashed a few days later. And that's when I started seeing a psychiatrist, and he thought it was depression at first, but then realized it was kind of depression plus this bipolar, like bipolar 2, not as extreme highs,
Okay.
but the lows are still low.
Yes, and you talk about that a lot, and the type of bipolar that you were diagnosed with was more of the depressive and kind of
Right.
anxiety filled,
Right.
but
Right.
debilitating.
Yeah.
So you um, kind of move on and you are single and maybe
Hmm.
just at first wanting to sow some wild oats.
It was it was part of that, but more of I have to find someone. And that was a big motivating factor.
Okay, you needed to, we just like cut out just for a split second. So you needed to find someone to.
To replace my husband,
Okay,
because
yeah,
I didn't think I could manage alone. I'd never been alone in my life. I didn't
yes,
know how.
yeah,
So that was a big motivating factor, definitely.
yes, to kind of fulfill that hole or that need. And I'm sure a lot of women, if they were a stay-at-home mom or, you know, kind of kept, if I can use that word, probably feel the same
Right.
way. Like all of a sudden, you've got to figure out. everything, finances, managing the house, taking care of the kids,
Yeah.
all of that. So I'm sure it's a really scary time, but you go out and you kind of make some friends and you meet somebody named Micah.
Yeah.
And what happened? Because that was really kind of the start of the massive kind of spiral down. Yeah.
Yes. Well, basically, what happened is that during this time of trying to find someone new as fast as I could, I started doing online dating.
Hmm.
And I won't name the online dating website that I met him on, but it's free. And that might have been a red flag. But um, we just started like chatting back and forth, not
Hmm.
really flirting or anything like that. Just talking about because we like similar music and all. And then he just kind of like swept me up and swept me off my feet and like was just treating me so wonderfully. And here I had been like feeling like dirt on the floor because my husband left me for another woman. And here's this guy who's like all of my dreams come true. But that didn't last very long.
The dream part. So do you think that the bipolar had a part of any size to play in the fact that you kind of chose to be with Micah?
um, I was trying so hard like not to be judgmental when I met him. I mean, he just looked like a mess when
Mm-hmm.
I first
Mm-hmm.
met him,
Yeah.
but he seemed nice enough and he was being nice to me, which for me was like, water in the desert at the time.
Yes.
So it was more like I don't want him to think that I think he looks foolish or anything. So I'm going to be nice and treat him like I would treat anyone else. And it just kind of went from there. And it's just like a whole long series of not saying no when you should probably say no.
Yes. We learn
Hmm.
we learn the lesson at some point to go ahead and listen to our friends and family.
It's true. I mean, but I
Yes.
just felt so bad for him because he had such a sob story every time I tried to end it with him. And end up feeling sorry for him and feeling guilty. And
Yes.
it's just one way to reel me back in.
Yes. So he was very good at that. But you do kind of finally admit that you needed him just as bad. You guys
Oh
needed each other.
yeah.
It was such a dysfunctional,
Very toxic.
and you write it with such honesty, like brutal honesty, and vulnerability. Because I know you have kids. You've got kids from your
Hmm.
your first husband, and you ended up having a child with Micah, and I'm thinking, oh, this mama is brave to write this
Oh.
detail. But
Yeah, I
it's
just figured if it wasn't honest, then there wasn't a point.
right.
I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
I mean, when you make these types of decisions, this is how bad it gets.
Yes.
It's just kind of, I guess I want to serve as a warning to others.
Oh, that's yeah, that's so important. That's one of the
Yeah.
important factors I think about your book is you paint a vivid picture of what that 10 years was like. Because you were managing your bipolar but came addicted to
Mhm.
alcohol and to opiates and
Yeah,
and was strung out really. And
absolutely. I was self-medicating all the way.
yes, yeah, but the other thing that really struck me throughout your story was even though you were being a terrible mom,
Yeah.
but you knew that your kids would be better off somewhere else. It's like that was always in your thinking process of I need to have my kids taken care of. And so
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's true. And as
Hmm.
far as, the boys, my ex-husband had a huge family. They got together every Sunday and had a big, huge Sunday dinner. They had, anything they could ever want in the palm of their hands. Not that they were spoiled, but they had everything that makes a family function. And how
Mm-hmm.
could I deprive them of that when
Yeah.
I knew that I wasn't mentally up to the task, you know?
Yes, and that's a mama's heart. Just
Thank you.
I feel like it just breaks through just all the massive dysfunction and everything, and you want to make sure your kids are all right. Um, and so there's this horrible time. You seem to have been able to hold down a job. You kind of had a job that worked well with an addiction, you know,
Yes.
because
Yes.
it was very flexible. Your job,
Very.
yeah.
Yes, very. And until I stopped doing it altogether, and then I had problems.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So for a lot of the time, you were able to kind of work enough to make money to get by most of the time, um,
Hmm.
and then you you really had a good support system around you. I thought for a long time in the beginning, and then of course after people just they're not seeing a
Got
return
sick
on
of
their
it.
investment
Yeah.
in the support, and
Yes.
so it's hard to watch somebody self-destruct.
Of course. And I totally understand. I'm not mad at anybody who did that.
Yes, good, good. That's such a healthy perspective as well, because some people might think I was at my lowest point and nobody was
Right.
there, but some people stuck with you,
They
and
did.
and you kind of had what I call angels along the way. Um,
Many, many.
yeah, so talk about what that meant, looking back and writing the book and seeing all along the way there really was, support for you.
Yeah, like just like you said, there were angels. The worst thing would happen, and somehow I would get to the next thing. And it was my fault that I kept screwing all these things up. I'd get settled somewhere, and something would happen, like, oh, my car broke down, or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
That goes beyond the budget that I laid out, and I freak out. I'd get all hysterical and upset. I can't do this. And then there would be Micah saying, you don't have to do it. I'll do it for you. I'll take care of us. But I think towards the very end, there were like not too many people left in my
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
So I was really blessed when I found the one friend that had always stuck by me, and she got me into the halfway house, and that was changed everything.
Yes, yeah. So I think there was a little something before that though that in my mind is what like I had said in the beginning, it was almost like a switch flipped and you kind of went off the deep end.
Yeah.
But then I feel like you met Cookie, your neighbor,
Yes.
and just around that time, the switch flipped off or flipped back, and you just finally got it. It seemed like deep, deep in your
Yeah.
soul that this is it. And so, what happened there?
Well, I mean, I talked about, I wrote in the book about the night that she broke her window with her purse, and was all like drunk as anything,
Yeah,
and was helping me with my drugs. And
yeah.
um, after she passed out, we had already agreed that I was going to stay with her now
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have anywhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sitting there. I was watching her while she was sleeping, and I realized that if I stayed there, that's who I would become, that lady, Cookie.
So it was
And
like you were looking at your future.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. And I said, I have got to get out of here while I still can. And I left her sleeping and got my stuff in a garbage bag and left. And then, luckily got to the halfway house, and
Mm-hmm.
things were so much better there. You had to make your bed. You have to clean the house. You have to be responsible, get up on time, go to work. You have to have a job.
Yes.
Everything that I needed was right there.
Yes. The structure is so important. when you're trying to rebuild, and you
Right.
can't let your mind be idle for hours and hours.
That's how I was living, and
Yes.
it's not good for you mentally, even if you already have problems.
Yes, yeah. So one of the things that um, you talked about a little bit, but it clearly showed in in your behavior was your impulse that you wouldn't really think through a decision.
Hmm.
Is that part of the bipolar
It's
disorder?
part of bipolar too. You don't really get, or I personally don't, with my bipolar, I'll get manic where I'll have a day where I'm like running around the house cleaning it or whatever, but I don't get like really super manic where I'm having delusions or things like that. But part of the
Mm-hmm.
manic that I get is being very impulsive with money, relationships, what have you.
Okay.
And that's yeah, that's always been part of it. And I've learned over the years to, when I think of something, to pause
Mm-hmm.
before acting, and that saves me from a lot of trouble. That's just something I never
Yes.
did. I just said, oh, okay, that's a great idea, let's do it.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes it is a great idea and it's fun, and other times it can get you in a lot of trouble.
Oh, I know. I
Yes.
had no control over my own impulses, and that's really scary
That
when you're
is.
not self-aware, and you don't really know what you're doing. So I'm glad now that I do take a minute before I act.
Yes, yeah. So you got through that 10 years of hell, really, made it into a halfway house and got some structure, and you just got your sobriety going. So you're in a season of healing now and trying
Yes.
to get your family back together. So what are the things that you did in terms of like your healing process?
Well, as far as myself, writing this book is what changed everything, because I would sit there and ruminate in my head about everything that happened and drive myself crazy. But getting it all out, I mean, when I first started writing it, I would come to the computer and run away crying because
Mm-hmm.
it was so scary to think about putting that down on paper. But every single time I put something down, it got a little easier.
Good.
And it was like reliving the whole thing again, but from the perspective of how I feel now. That was huge. And then for the boys, I let them come to me. I would, always stay in touch with them, and I'd send out, cards and texts, and we started a group text where
Mm-hmm.
we all text each other and send memes and stuff. And I find that it's just easier than trying to come in and like all of a sudden be their mom and lay down the law. I don't feel like I have the right to do that,
Oh,
except maybe with Victoria.
yes. Yeah.
Um,
So, was there kind of in the beginning a lot of damage to repair with your boys
well,
in
I
particular,
don't
or?
think that they trusted me because I kept saying I was going to do, I'm going to live here now. I'm going to go to work, and this is going to be great. And I'm going to be by myself, and you guys can come over anytime you want. And then it would end up not being true.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I had a lot to make up to them as far as trust. But I can say with pretty fair certainty that both of them do trust me now. But it took many years of giving them examples and showing them that they could trust me.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you basically had to earn their trust back,
Yep.
and
Yes. And
and
I
it
knew I did.
and it took a few years. Just so somebody
Yep.
would know, it's a process that you need to be patient with.
You do. And I mean, I
Yes.
know they love me right off the bat,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't that deep kind of love that you hope to have with your children, until more time passed and I, showed myself to be reliable.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there a time, again, particularly with your boys? We'll talk about your daughter as well, but that you could just feel them relax, like when the healing came. Was there?
Yeah.
Did you
There
notice that?
was, I noticed that like they would come and visit me for like a little while now and then. But one night, my younger son wanted to spend the night at my house. And it told me that he finally believed that this was my house and I was going to stay there. And he trusted me enough to take care of him and be there. And do you know that my kids are like 22 and 18 now, and they both spend the night at my house every so often. It's just
Oh,
the most wonderful thing.
yes. Oh my gosh, that just it's I love the healing, because things can be
Yeah,
healed. It takes time
it's
and
true. It's
yeah.
true. You just and you just have to keep trying, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah. And so you have a daughter as well. The daughter's with Micah.
She
Yeah.
lives with me and my current husband.
Okay.
um,
Yes.
and she is turning 14 tomorrow, so she's a teenager. And she's doing really well. I mean, considering the circumstances under which she was born, which were difficult,
Yes.
she's just doing beautifully. She's just such a beautiful young girl growing up into a young woman.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So you got yourself together. You lived in the halfway house for almost a year. To me,
Yeah,
that was also a sign of you really wanted to get better. I mean, this time
I
you were putting
did.
in the effort, and that was it. And
Yeah.
kind of came out of that, and
Hmm.
um, kept. Do you go to like 12-step meetings, or do you have like
Um,
a regular kind of discipline that you do now for continued healing?
well, I try to do it online because I found, and this is only my experience, and this is only this one place I went to, but I found going on a regular basis becomes kind of clicky in a way
Mm. Mm-hmm.
with people, and there's drama that you don't really want. And I
Okay.
was a little older than the people that were going there anyway, so
Sure.
I just didn't want the drama that went along with it. So it's nice, they have the intherooms.com, and you can go there and you
Oh,
can
okay.
learn a lot. Yeah, you can learn there. You can go into a virtual meeting. There's also, lots of books on the subject. I
Yes.
read like crazy. So
Okay.
I'm just always trying to look at something that will make it even a little better. So
Yes. Yeah.
that's what I try to work on. I'm not always successful.
Well, I didn't know there were kind of online 12-step meetings and stuff. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
in
with the
the room.
pandemic and all.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it makes sense. So
Yep.
intherroom.com is
In the
a place where
rooms.
people can go. Okay.
Yeah, ROMS rooms.com. In the
Okay.
rooms.
Yes. Oh, good. That's a great
Yeah.
resource. So you do have a continued plan, to stay on track and keep moving
Yes.
forward. Good.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so you've got your bipolar. I guess you kind of take a daily medication now to keep that balanced
Yeah, I
out.
take
And
they've got me on a mood stabilizer and an antidepressant. So,
okay.
but I just take it every day. And yeah, there's like times when I have some breakthrough symptoms and all, but I luckily I just call my doctor and do whatever he says to do. And they don't last. I mean, they used to last like a really long time, the bad times, but
Mm-hmm.
now it's not as bad because like I have tools to fight it with.
Yes, yes, that's the thing. You've gotten the tools now, and your support, which is a must. I mean, that
Yeah.
was what you shunned before, right?
Yep, exactly. And
Yeah,
I'm grateful to say that most of my friends have come around after they've seen me doing better,
fantastic.
wanting to, reestablish a connection. And I really appreciate that.
Yes, yes. So, I just am still kind of blown away from what you went through and just the brutal honesty that you write with. And so, where are you now? I mean, today you're kind of married, your family's back together. How are things today?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Everything is good. I mean, I try to write on a regular basis. I'm working on my prequel for my growing up years
Yes. Yeah.
before all that happened.
Okay.
So I'm trying to write on a regular basis. I try to, read as much as I can. It's been hard in the pandemic to be able to go out and do things
Mm-hmm.
because, we've been pretty strict about masks and going out and things. So, we've been trying to find stuff to do at home. That's fun. We recently rearranged our whole house and we try to have fun.
Yes. Yeah. Good. Just being together, being silly, or doing a project
Yeah.
together. So, well, this
And
is.
having,
Go
oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm
No,
just
no.
saying,
You go ahead. Yeah.
having the kids around, that's just something I never dreamed could happen. So I'm grateful for every second of it.
Yes, and my heart smiles that it has worked out. And
Yeah.
so yeah. So what would be the main thing that you want? What would be the main message you would want somebody to get out of your book?
Well, when I was going through all that, especially having an abusive marriage, um, I did not see a single way out. I thought there's no way I'm getting out of this. I'm going to die in this mess. And I just want people to know that, yeah, there is a way out. You can do it. You can find the strength in yourself to know this is wrong and you can do it. And if you want to use my book as some kind of roadmap, that's great. If you have another way, that's great, but you can.
Amen. You definitely can. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you, Glenna, for
Oh,
being
thank
my guest
you.
today, and just again for writing that. Your book is pretty profound,
Oh,
and just the
thank you
way and
so
the
much.
yeah. I think it's going to help a lot of people. So it's available on Amazon.
Amazon and Kindle and free on Kindle Unlimited.
Oh, okay, good. I will show the
Yeah.
cover one more time. See if it can come across on the Kindle. There it is. So,
Yep.
yeah, find that on Amazon. Anybody struggling with addiction or bipolar or a really dysfunctional, unhealthy relationship, I'm sure this book will help you and definitely make you feel like you're not alone. So, Glenna, don't go anywhere. But thank you, everybody, for listening today. Mahalo
Bye.
and have a wonderful day.